Hey, what's up, producer fam? It's your boy Jack Spade. Welcome to my Ableton Push to Beginners course. This course is designed to take you from a push to a shove. I've been waiting to say that for a minute. If you don't know anything about the Push to controller, then this course is for you. I'm going over all of the basic functions and the features, the buttons and the knobs, and I'm telling you what everything means. And then we're gonna make a beat at the end of the course. So enough talking, I'm gonna get right to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is give you a brief tour of the Push to controller. It has a lot of buttons and knobs, and I'll explain the functions of these buttons and these knobs here. At the top left, this knob right here is the tempo. You can control the tempo with this. You can actually hit shift and do finer adjustments. Okay. Right here is the tap tempo. Should be familiar with that. Now, Ableton is set to play right now when you tap out this tempo. Let's adjust it back down here. All right, this right here is the swing. Right here is the delete. Now, this delete button does a few different things. In note mode, this button deletes the selected clip. So, for instance, this is right here is a clip. If I switch to session view, you can see that's where we're at right here. I'll go back to note mode. This right here, I will explain all of this in a later section, but just know that this delete button deletes that. Now, obviously to undo, I could bring that back. All right. So, mute. Let's play right here. And actually, let's go to session. So I could play this entire row. And I'll explain this as well a little later. But what this mute button does right here, it mutes the currently selected track. All right. Now, if you hold mute while pressing another track's lower display button, you can mute that track. All right. Now, if you hold mute while pressing a drum rack pad, you can mute that. So it's basic. It's common sense, you know. You hold the mute button and you hit something. Now, if you hold the mute button for a few moments, the mute will be locked. You can then release the mute and toggle the different devices on and off just by pressing the corresponding upper or lower display buttons. So that's what that does in lock mode. And then I can unlock that mute. Now, solo is pretty much the same thing. So I could press solo and then it'll just solo that track. I can hold solo. Say I locked it, but I could hold solo and just solo that. Or I could just solo one of the drum sounds. Or I can hold it down and now solo is locked. So if I'm trying to mix, that's how I would do that. Speaking of mixing, we are in the mix mode. So that's why we can see our levels and you can pan. Holding delete and touching the knob brings it back to its default. Now stop clip, it'll stop the clip on beat. So if you're doing a performance or something like that, it's good to use that stock clip. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this convert button. This convert button is really cool because you can convert a sample to some drum pads, and that's really good for drums. Like if you have a drum loop and you just want to break up that loop real quick and make an entire kit out of it, you could totally do that with this. Right now, this sample is in a simpler, which is a simple sampler in Ableton Live. And it has a few different modes, and I'll talk about that a little later. But right now it's in classic mode. So if I hit convert and I hit, the only choice is a drum pad, I hit that. Now it's on one pad here. And when you have a drum loop, you usually want to turn that into an entire kit. So what I would do is switch it to slicing. As you see, it already sliced it based on the sensitivity. All right. This is really deep, these sampling modes, and I'll go more in depth with those later, but right now we're just talking about this convert button. So when I hit convert, hit the drum rack. Now it is on in it. All these are individual samples on your drum rack. And of course you can adjust it. Adjust each sample really easy. From there, you can see double loop, which is if we go to clip mode, and I'll discuss these modes later, you can see that we have a 4-bar loop right here. You could double that loop. From there, we have quantize, and when you hold quantize down, it gives you all of these options here. You know, you swing them out, what you want to quantize it to, and you can even have it quantize while you record over here. If you wanted to put that on, you can turn that on with that button. But I usually quantize mine to about 50, and then you can just hit the quantize button and you'll see the information of what it quantized it to. Right here you have duplicate. Now in different workflows it does different things. If you're in this workflow, you could duplicate entire scenes, you could duplicate patterns. If you're over here, you can duplicate this drum and put it on here if you ever wanted to do that. You can also duplicate entire instruments, so, and tracks, so you could duplicate that. Let's say you have this here playing. Let's say I wanted to create a different variation of this. I could create new. And make a different variation. The way live works is that once you record, it'll automatically choose your length when you stop. So wherever you stop, that's what length it is. If you didn't want it to do that, you could turn on fixed length. To choose the length that you want from the fixed length, you hold that fixed length down. You could choose 8 bars, 16 bars, or 32 bars, or whatever you want. Okay, so right here you have automate. So you can automate in the session view and the arrange. So to automate, you just hit that automate, and then you choose a parameter and you hit record. And you can tell that something has been automated because of that little square right there. Now if you wanted to delete that automation, you can hold down delete and just tap it. Now it's back to normal. Okay, so next you have your record button. And while it's kind of self-explanatory, I just want to show you how it behaves in Push 2. So let's record a part. Now, as you can see, when I hit record again, it automatically loops. So it's looping at 2 bars right now. And when I hit record, the record button again, I could add in other parts. So over here, you have your master volume. Then you have setup, where you can choose like the intensity of your display light, your LED brightness, your pass sensitivity, gain and dynamics, and also your workflow. Okay, right here you have your user mode, which deactivates everything and basically allows Push 2 to be reprogrammed to control alternate functions in Live or in other software as well. Okay, so these 4 buttons that are grouped together over here are different modes for Push 2. Device is your device mode, where you can see different instruments, you can see your plugins, just basically any device. With this mode, let's say you have a plugin loaded. Right here I have Wavetable loaded. So I can hit this button and go deeper into Wavetable, and you have a bunch of different functions, the filters and everything like that. Okay, so the next mode is your mix, and you can adjust your levels. You can pan, and you can send your signal to right now I'm sending it to the reverb, and you can see that right there. Okay, next you have your clip mode, where you can see all your MIDI information. You can change your loop length and everything like that. Then you have your browse. You can browse instruments, you can browse samples, and I'll show you that in a little bit later. Right here you have your master fader. So next you have these navigational buttons, and they behave differently depending on what mode you're in. So over here you have your scene buttons, or your buttons that choose your resolution for your note repeat. Alright, so over here you have your repeat. It's a note repeat. Behaves as you expect. And over here is your different resolutions. Okay, so you saw the function of these buttons, but they also do something else. In session view, they launch your clips. And they always launch on beat. Okay, next you have your accent button. Basically, accent is like full level. When it's enabled, all the incoming notes, whether step sequence or played in real time, are played at full velocity. All right. You can also just hold it if you didn't want to click it on, or you could just turn it on. Next, you have your scale mode. You can choose what key you want to be in. You could choose to be in major, minor, and a variety of different scales. And when you're in key, you can basically trigger any pad and you'll be in the key of whatever your choice is. So it's great for coming up with different melodies and stuff like that you wouldn't normally come up with. In chromatic mode, you can trigger any key. Now the highlighted ones are in the key that you have chosen, but you can still trigger other pads that have different keys or different notes. You can even choose the direction of how you want to play. Next, you have your note and your session view. The session view is really cool because this is where you can arrange your track. You have different patterns and stuff like that. Then you can go to note. This is where you play your melodic instruments. Next is the layout button, which changes the layout to a melodic sequencer if you're in the note mode, or to a split real-time playing and the melodic sequencer. When you're on a drum rack and you hit layout, that changes it to 16 levels. Hit layout again, and now you go into 64 pad mode. And over here you have your octaves and your page left and right, and shift and select.